Greetings all. Silly question, how's your weather? Yeah, it's El Nino here. Okay, and when El Nino happens in the Pacific, in California and the West Coast, they get rain. And boy, they're getting rain. San Diego and Washington's had it. Oh man, the Bay Area's had plenty of it too. I hear from my friends there. Of course, down there in Louisiana and such, and going up the East Coast, they also got another problem. Now that is not necessarily directly related to El Nino either, but out here, when California gets soaked, we go dry. Yeah, so all the folks out there that, were thinking about moving here or wanting to come here on vacation, like my sister-in-law Debbie, who kept looking at the weather before she ever came here for the first time and went, "It never stops raining, it never stops raining." Asking my brother, "Please, let's not go there." Which is not really true, because it stopped raining here 2 weeks ago, and we haven't seen hardly a drop since. The last rainfall we had was only 11/100ths, so barely a tenth of an inch of rain. Now, on the 9th of the month, we did receive 2 inches and 9/100ths. That's plenty of rain. Okay, it came one day. We had 2 inches of rain there in one day, but then ever since, that's it, man. It's done. And the forecast here is for nothing coming until probably somewhere around the middle of next week. So we're going to be at least 3 weeks without a drop of rain over here in rainy Puna, where nobody wants to live because it's so wet. It isn't always so wet here. That's truth. We get periodic drought problems. It's mostly a wintertime phenomenon when the low pressure systems are tracking in the Pacific from the west to the east, heading towards, say San Francisco, California or so. They're above the Hawaiian Islands on the planet, so they track across Kauai, which is the highest, one of the islands to the north there. And so the upper islands like Kauai and Oahu at this time of year will pick up rain, and they did. They got rain from that. Maui is supposed to be getting a little bit of it, but it's not even going to touch this island, and that happens a lot in the wintertime. Yeah. Low pressure systems moving along, heading, towards the California coast, up above the Hawaiian Islands. They can be just saturated, loaded, but they don't make it down here. We're too close to the equator, and so they just don't make it this far. Well, so there you go. Louisiana's underwater, and here we are, not a drop. I'm having to water the nursery every day now. That was one of the reasons that I originally moved here, was because I didn't want to have to water the nursery ever again. Well, so much for that. But anybody out there who thought it never stops raining in this area, sorry, that's not true. We will occasionally get cracked earth here. We get drought problems where plants start to die in the pots. I see that Ellen had some plants sitting around that she bought that were in cinder. Oh, the plants that are in pots in cinder right now, they're toast. Yeah, if they got a grower's medium like ProMix or something, they hold up pretty well because sphagnum holds water, but cinder doesn't hold any water at all. And I just picked up some stuff that was roasted from lack of water. Well, I've been looking towards spring here, and in the nursery, I have started planting flats of spring vegetables. So far, I'm not going over the top, but I do have an entire flat of squash. I have a flat of broccoli, flats of cabbage. I have some thyme I started out there. We got Maui onions. I have scallions, catnip for the cats. It's about time to start pepper seeds, but well, sometimes I get started with this stuff in January, and then what happens to me in February is the weather turns completely and the seed won't germinate. This happened, I believe, last year. And so I wanted to start a few pepper plants, so what I did was I planted 6 seeds of each type I had there, and I put them under the lights in the shed. A little warmer in there, and they'll probably come up. If the weather stays like it is, they may come up on the table. But the truth is, when it gets dry like this here in the winter, we don't have cloud cover. Oh, the nights get pretty cold. I know. You folks up there in the north are going to be laughing at me when I say, man, it'll hit 50 degrees sometimes around here. But it's good. 59 is the magic number. At 59 degrees, all the cookie frogs shut up. Yeah, so they've been pretty quiet lately at night, and I'm enjoying that because the night temperatures have been dropping. Otherwise, I've just been dealing with all sorts of, household issues. Issues with the solar car charger at the moment. Somebody did a software update and the thing online on me and messed up the program I had in it. Yeah, the rats are gone. Got them. Yeah, man, it was a lot of them. Man, the amount of rat bait that those things carried off and ate out of here, it was frightening. I don't know how many rats. Had I put a trail cam on the baits, I guess I could have told, but I honestly don't want to know. I could tell you by the amount of bait I went through, which was probably over about 3 dozen bars of the bait, plus some other stuff, gone. Wiped it right out. It's a lot of rats. But I don't smell anything. Ordinarily, when you bait rats, wherever they're denned up, they can go back there and die wherever they're denned up, and it starts to stink to high heaven. Well, it's a concern when they're around your house, because the last thing you want to do is have a whole wall full of rats stinking and dying. But no, I don't smell any dispatched rats. So, as I suspected, it means they were coming from the neighbors. They were using my property for food. It was a supermarket because of all my fruit trees, but they weren't living here. They had tried to move into the shed, but I caught that right away. Yeah, they were next door there somewhere. There's got to be one hellacious stink this morning. There just got to smell to high heaven with all them rats dead. If everybody's lucky, they were under a wood pile out in the woods or something like that, and not in the house or in the attic or walls or someplace. But I think they were in the houses next door. I'm well aware that the coffee shack next door has been infested with them for years. I've been battling that one. Chances are it really smells bad this morning. So that one's over. We finally got Ellen's bicycle tires here. Bicycle's been sitting forever. She said she wants to ride it. Tires rotted out in the meantime. So I got that fixed up. Toilet seal leaking on the flange. Replaced it, still leaking. The darn flanges were put in too low below the floor here. I'm going to have to call in a pro plumber and have him raise the flanges, I'm afraid. It's what it seems like. You're here 7 years and you're going to repaint the house at least once. If you're here 14 years, well, pretty good chance you're going to be rebuilding almost everything you put in by the time you get there. That's the fact about home ownership. And on top of it, I'm growing fruit trees and I got weeds out here and you name it. I give myself more projects than I could shake a stick at. But in the meantime, everything that was done 14 years ago is now starting to crumble and fall apart and needing replacement. no way out of it. I mean, you can own nothing. It's the way Ellen says, I had commented the other day how, I had somewhere in my things, I was talking about a certain item, and she says, your things, you don't really have anything. I said, oh yeah, I do. I got more stuff than I can remember what it is and where it is. That's too much. So for those of you who are a thing collector, if you've gone past the point where you can't remember how many things you have and where you put them, you might want to consider stopping the collection. Yeah, we had that conversation. I've been craving pizza for a while now, and we really don't have any good pizzerias on this island. I suppose there's people out there going to argue with me, but most of it's chain, and that's, Domino's, Little Caesars, Pizza Hut, that stuff. It's all blech. I was born in Chicago, man. Chicago is synonymous with fine pizza. We had Lou Malnati, we had Uno, we had Home Run Inn. I mean, we had pizzas. Pizzas here much. There's some folks down there in Pahoa called Boogie Woogie Pizza that are fairly good. At this point now, probably the best ones around that I've run into, but in my youth, I worked for several Sicilian pizza restaurants owned by Sicilians, and learned the recipes, did the cooking, made the sauce, made the dough, made the sausage, ground the cheese, the whole 9 yards. And so I have long experience with being actually a pizza maker, and I don't necessarily consider myself that good at it, but I can make a better pizza than I can buy anywhere on this island. I just put one together this morning. It's usually a rather interesting recipe for the dough. It was pretty unique. It was just a cup of flour, half a package of yeast, half a teaspoon of salt, half a teaspoon of sugar, and about half a cup of water, warm water. Get the yeast started in there with the sugar, and add the salt and the flour after the yeast foams up, and then knead it for about 7 minutes or so, and then I lay it out in a bowl with olive oil in it so the dough doesn't stick to the bowl. I don't put oil in my dough, I put it on my dough. Yeah. And just let it sit there and rise till it was doubled up. I didn't have any real typical pizza ingredients today, so we had an interesting pizza. I took the dough and I spread it out by hand, didn't roll it, so it had nice texture. Very nice texture, that recipe. Nice and fluffy. Less flour is more. Really, the less flour you can get away with and still find the dough workable, that's what you want to do. When I dump it out of the bowl after it's doubled up, we'll go ahead and flour a cutting board and then dump it on the dough side down, oil side from the bowl up. And I start working it with my hands on the oil side so I don't stick to it, and I can push it out into a nice round pizza. I slide it out onto my pizza board. Yeah, I got a legitimate pizza board for the oven. Cover the board with cornmeal and slide it on there, and make sure you haven't got any holes in the dough. And I made up a sauce this morning out of fire roasted tomatoes, garlic, salt, pepper, basil, and oregano. Total sauce. Spread that around on top, and I laid some arugula from the garden on top of the sauce. Then covered that with Parmesan cheese and then slices of smoked mozzarella. And then I sprinkled some onions over the top, a few. Put her in the oven, let her go about 18 minutes at 450, 425. That was good. That's good pizza. Better than most of them I can buy here on the island, I'll tell you that. But problem is I get a craving for the stuff, but I just don't feel like going through the work. I swear that, after COVID, just don't have the energy. Everything seems like it's too much work anymore. It's not the same anymore. Did something to me. That's what scares me about that disease and what I had said way early on in this when I got beat to death for warning people about this virus because I knew it will change the way you think. And it apparently has. The U.S. has gone nuts. We've always been a crazy place, but ever since COVID, oh God, what a mess. It changes the way you think, folks. It causes anxiety, PTSD, depression. In my case, it's a bit of depression. I just don't have the energy I had, and I'm not enthusiastic about my life. This happened because of COVID. Hopefully, I'll get over it, but I know what caused it. It was damage to the gut flora in my colon. And that's not an easy thing to fix. The probiotics you got in the bottle, that is not going to fix it, folks. Okay? Those gut floras, you receive them from your mother if you're lucky enough to have come down the birth canal. That's how you get them. And the only way you can replace them if you didn't get them to begin with is you got to have a fecal transplant. That sounds like fun, doesn't it? Yeah, it's a nasty thing. I'm hoping, I'm just getting old. I've had this conversation with a few people where we're not really sure. Are we just getting old, We don't know. Oh, well. Aloha. Y'all hang loose, okay? Have a good week.